Emil, Amok to you. Welcome to my micro talk show. It's my takeout, my takes on all things considerable. Yeah, we call it the takeout because, you might expect food from some place called Emil, maybe. We're here Monday through Friday, and sometimes we repeat, sometimes we're live. This is the secret podcast. We don't put it out on, like podcast places where, like we don't say, oh, available where you regularly find your podcasts. You got to work to find this. And, we pop up when we have something to say, and we might have a guest. And we might have a guest next week, but we're going to have a guest today. Certainly, Professor Dan's going to join us. We're going to talk about Filipino American history because this is our month. This is October. See, I should change my last name from Emil Guillermo to Emil October, and then people will call me Mr. October. On second reference, like the New York Times would have to say, Mr. October said, even though he was referring to late September, early November, they'd have to call me Mr. October on second reference. Anyway, this is a kind of like a good news sort of day in a way, because we've just come off of President Biden's speech last night, where in 50 minutes, he made another inflection point speech. I mean, we're just in an inflection point. We're in an inflection point era where we are about to go off into some other new direction. And it should be a good new direction if we get it right. If we don't, it can be bad. I mean, that's why we're at an inflection point. And talking about it last night, I thought Biden did well to point out, hey, there's this thing with Israel and Hamas. And he pointed out that Hamas is not who you think. Hamas does not equal Palestinians. Hamas doesn't equal all the Palestinians, or just some of them. They're the ruling party there in Gaza, but they have a dictatorial reign. No free democracy there. It is not a democracy in Gaza. I think a lot of people just don't understand who Israel's dealing with when they're fighting Hamas. Hamas likes to fight. Well, all you need to know, and Biden mentioned it last night, Hamas believes in human shields. Hamas believes in fighting this PR campaign where they put out disinformation or misinformation. The whole hospital thing is a matter of misinformation. Well, who bombed the hospital? Hamas says it was Israel. Israel says, wait a minute, we didn't do it. The United States has intelligence. Now it's been verified. Israel didn't do it. But many people only saw the idea that Hamas says Israel did it, and now people are up in arms. Oh, humanitarian crisis. But this is what Hamas does. And all you have to do is go back over the record and see how Hamas leadership describes their people. They say, Jews love to live. Our people, Hamas, we sacrifice. And we're martyrs. And we will die for our beliefs. And that somehow gives the green light for Hamas leadership to sacrifice their own people. That's how they justify it. You say, well, what kind of people would bomb themselves, would set off a bomb at a hospital in Gaza? Well, if you need PR, if you need people to think that Israel's doing this, you will bomb it and then say it's Israel, and then try to make hay and say, hey, look, we're innocents. And I think that's what you got to worry about. And as far as the hospital incident, it's proven. I mean, the Pentagon not just the IDF. Joe Biden feels comfortable that it was not Israel. Who else could it be? All right, it wasn't Hamas. It was another splinter group, another splinter Palestinian militant group. But the point is, that's the kind of thinking of the people Israel is fighting. And as I like to say, I'm a pacifist. And there's got to be a road to peace. I believe it. And you might say, oh, that's naive, Emil. But no, in fact, there is a road to peace. And when Gaza and the Palestinians were doing well, maybe 10 years ago, the economy was booming. It looked like there could be a two-state solution. And then when that all went to hell, when Hamas took over, this is the problem we have now. Because Israel does not believe in genocide of Palestinians. That's not Israeli belief. Hamas, it is their principle. It's one of their principles. And I was asking my friend, I've been communicating with a friend of mine, a Filipino American, a retired lawyer who married his high school sweetheart, moved to Israel, has lived there for 10 years. And as soon as whenever something blows up in Israel or in the Middle East, I always say, what's going on there? And he answers back, oh, calm down. It's okay. This time I just asked him, what's going on? And is there a road to peace? And he said, and it's kind of telling, and I want to read it to you because he says, there is no path to peace, even if Hamas is eliminated. The PLO will still be around, as well as Iran. How do you make peace with an ideology that wants you dead? Witness the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, countless Palestinians in Jordan, Qatar. It is a funder of Hamas, Wahhabists in Saudi Arabia, and the list goes on. Maybe generations from now, when liberal humanist values take root in Islamic societies. But for now, my friend says, how do you make peace with an ideology that wants you dead? And that's something I think that a lot of people don't get. People say, oh, Hamas, oh, well, we got to support the Palestinian people. Yeah, we got to support the Palestinian people, but you got to support the right ones, because not everyone, Hamas does not equal Palestinians. And there are Palestinians who want peace. There are innocent Palestinians, and many of them died the first go round, when Hamas attacked Israel right there at Gaza. And then now cooler heads are prevailing in terms of more humanitarian effort. The borders opening up in Egypt. A lot of people are calling for ceasefire. I don't know if we can get to ceasefire yet. Not yet. But you see, since October 7th, today we had the release of 2 hostages, two Americans, which is a good sign. But I think what people need to caution against is you need to caution against saying, oh, they're people of color, we're pro-Palestinian, Palestinians must live free, the Jews are for genocide. The Jews are not for genocide. The Jews are for self-defense. And if you want to see where genocide is in their principles, look at Hamas. So I think any reasonable person has to be anti-Hamas. And there's a way to be pro-Palestinian and anti-Hamas. And all you have to do is just look at Hamas. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal today, how the West helped fund Hamas. This is how much people don't understand Hamas. After this is from today's Wall Street Journal. After Hamas launched its murderous assault on Israel this month, the U.S. and its allies condemned Iran for funding what they deem a terrorist organization. Left unspoken were the many ways the international community and even Israel itself inadvertently helped Hamas fill its coffers. The Islamist group has raised tens of millions of dollars by skimming off humanitarian assistance and taxing economic activity stirred by a trade opening into its Gaza Strip stronghold, according to independent researchers and current and former Western security officials. You got to know Hamas and how it operates and how it's funded inadvertently by the West. The flow of money illustrates the conundrum Israel and the West have faced since 2007, when Hamas wrested control of the Strip from its rival, the internationally recognized Palestinian Authority. How to support Palestinian civilians in Gaza without empowering a group promoting violence against Israel. It's in Hamas's principles, the genocide of Jews. The recent Hamas attacks show how the international community has struggled to walk that line. And that really is, for so long, since 2007, it's been kind of like people, it's out of sight, out of mind, except, some skirmishes here or there. But now we're, Israel was surprised. It was their 9/11 on October 7th. And now people are saying, well, of course we want to embrace the Palestinians, but you can't embrace Hamas. You can embrace the Palestinians, but not embrace Hamas. It's a fine line, but that's the road to peace. And of course, the big debate in America is happening on campuses. And let me bring on Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethics Studies, San Francisco State University, my friend, Filipino American Studies, Asian American Studies. Dan, are you there?
I am.
Hey, thanks for coming on, and I
Yeah, I'm
appreciate.
sorry about my delay. I had an involuntary update,
Oh,
which
no
took
problem, no
forever.
problem. But look, we're talking about this thing. I mentioned the fact, and we're going to talk about Filipino history later. I mentioned the fact that I'm having these communications with our mutual Filipino American friend in Israel, who's telling me, what's up on the ground. But I think one of the big things that people don't get when they look at the situation, sometimes there's an immediate anti-Israel kind of reaction and a pro-Palestinian reaction, but it's almost impossible to really understand that if you really understand what Hamas is about. And since you're on campus, or I know you're now professor emeritus, what's happened? How did it change on campus so that uh, there's this strong anti-Israel kind of feeling and pro-Palestinian feeling on campus?
Yeah, it started changing several years ago, and primarily because of the addition of it's called Ahmed, uh, Arab diaspora studies
Mm,
in ethnic studies. So I'm going to take you back, though, all the way to 1969 and the so-called War of Attrition. It was in March 1969 that started,
mhm.
and we were getting ready. There was a rumor about that the committee that was formed by Mayor Alioto in conjunction with S.I. Hayakawa, the president of the college, and they would make whatever deals, compromises
Yeah.
with the group of leading students who were leading the SF state strike.
Uh-huh.
So uh, we were having discussions about the war of attrition on campus, because 2 years prior, right, was an even bigger, the 6 Day War, right?
Right. So
So
this is
this
about 16. You're talking about 69.
69, this is
60,
February 69.
yeah.
Okay. So 54 years ago. And my people were saying, well, we're establishing this school of third world studies, which ended up being a school of ethnic studies. And my question to everybody was, well, what happens if the Israelis and Jewish Americans, they're ethnic people? What happens if they ask to join and offer courses in the College of Ethnic Studies, or at the time it was the School of Ethnic Studies?
Mhm.
And people were divided. They weren't so sure. They said, well, it's kind of a Euro invention. It's an invention by colonial powers as a sort of apology for allowing the Holocaust to go as far as it did, right? And I felt that was true. Much of politics is really psychology, and so yeah, that is real. It's also real that the people who were being moved onto what used to be Palestine, which Zionists say never existed, by the way. They say so. It's the exact mirror reverse.
Wait, Dan,
Palestine never existed.
hold
So
on
the
a
people,
second.
wait. So the people who were being moved into that area weren't even part of the indigenous population of the area.
So
They were Eastern Europeans. They were
yeah,
Eastern Europeans. So
the
it was colonial. It was a colonial activity to establish Israel. That's number two.
yeah,
Number three, Israel was supposed to be keep the peace, and one of the ways they would do that was not without being armed. So, under the original established criteria, they were not to be armed. And so, my question to my students has always been for the last 50 years, what is an Uzi?
yeah,
Because it was basically one of the most favorite submachine guns in the world, despite the fact that it is over 53 years old. And it was made out of tractor parts, right?
right.
So, there you have it. There's been armed conflict even before the establishment of the nation state of Israel. And what we're seeing is continuity of that. Okay,
Yeah,
so what has happened that's different is Palestinians have gotten more air, particularly on college campuses,
mhm,
particularly in the last 25 years or so, because of programs. Sometimes it's as small as one or two courses, and other times it's virtually a department size, which is Ahmed in the College of Ethnic Studies at San Francisco State. Now, you should also know that the people who are extremely well funded is Jewish Studies,
right.
again, on the campus at San Francisco State. So, just as in the big picture globally, there's been ongoing clash, right, between Israel and Palestine, or what should be Palestine, right, or what once was Palestine, and on the campus as well. Now, there's been dirty pool played by both sides, and I'm just talking about academic dirty pool.
Right.
Uh, there's questionable donations to organizations that may or may not be funding Hamas and Hezbollah. Um, I have a couple of close friends, former students, right, from the 70s and 80s, that have family in Gaza and the West Bank. One gentleman in particular, who I've known for at least 25 years,
Yeah.
uh, is a very credible source for information about what's really going on there. So that's where we're at, and now, because ethnic studies is a requirement, at the lower levels, especially secondary, right? It's a requirement for graduation. There has been constant resistance from Jewish American people, not the entire community, but Jewish American people, against statements about the Palestinian circumstances. And so they want a certain perspective to be included in the ethnic studies courses that reflect an Israeli perspective. Now, whether or not that is a Zionistic perspective, it all comes down to what's the degree, what's the content, what's the perspective, right, on all of the conflicts that have occurred over the past since 1948, right?
All right.
So,
But what you're saying, Dan, is because of the rise of ethnic studies in Arab American or Muslim American uh, studies or departments, uh, there this has brought on this sympathy. But I mean, I
It's limited, right?
yeah,
It's not like 50-50. It's
right,
like maybe 10-20% of the student population is with differing degrees of levels of information, accuracy of information and taking biases into consideration, all the rest of that. They're at least able now to relatively freely express their perspective on the
right.
issue.
And I don't mind that. I mean, I think that's great, free expression, free for the First Amendment. But when you talk about Hamas and Israel, uh, Hamas has in its principles uh, this idea of Jewish genocide. I
Well,
mean,
they want the exist uh, they want there not to be an Israeli state, just no nation state known as Israel. Okay,
right,
now it comes down to interpretation as to whether or not they actually want to wipe out the people, which is clearly what genocide means, right?
right,
But 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 to do the destruction, wholesale destruction of the state of Israel, the nation of Israel, would be in essence sentencing, right, the Israeli population to treatment that could be equated with genocide.
yeah. Well, it's just that when you see the terror attack on October 7th, and you see how the MO of Hamas in the past, how they use human shields, how they use, uh, you know, terror as a form of PR to bolster their position in public opinion. I just don't see how reasonable people can cannot see that Hamas is different from the Palestinian people. Hamas does not equal Palestine. It does
No,
not equal
you're
the
absolutely
Palestinian.
right. When the Hamas on the 7th, when the Hamas attack began, right, the first thing I thought of was the way this conflict would affect our communities and particularly our college and university campuses.
Yeah,
I did not think that hallowed traditional institutions like Harvard would have that big a rush towards condemnation of Israel, especially when it wasn't clear whether or not Israeli forces were responsible for the destruction of the hospital.
yeah. Well. To be clear on that point, it was student organizations coming together, and suddenly, their voice was louder than the university's official voice, which didn't come out till a couple of days later.
That's the problem with being slow.
And
You
people
know,
were surprised, like Lauren Summers, a former cabinet member, former Harvard president, saying, "Oh, what's happened in Harvard? I mean, this is a world event, and Harvard's not taking a stand, and you're allowing students,
yeah,
a
that's
group of students,
typical.
yeah, a group of students to hijack, the voice of the university and come out there and be anti-Israeli and pro Hamas. That and that has now snowballed into what we have now. Uh, I guess that happened on the 8th or the 9th, and now here we are a week later, and there's still a bitter divide. Although Harvard has come out stronger, saying being more pro-Israel, but there's still it has exposed the debate that exists. And
Yes.
I don't even know how you can have a debate if you know what Hamas is about. I mean,
Well, if you accept even 50% of what has been disclosed by typically reliable media and set aside the perspective, government's perspective because of the bias potential, right? Even if you just look at the general media and you look at what is usually reliable media, there, you should be taking a really strong position against Hamas. Now, my Palestinian friends long ago, when I talked about, the distinction between Hezbollah and Hamas, they were very clear that Hamas was much more, as they put it, terroristic,
mm,
than Hezbollah. Now it's going to be really difficult for a whole lot of people that don't watch what's going on in the Middle East
right.
to accept what they said and the fact that I agree with that perspective. Okay, But
Yeah.
once again, I was an international relations major, and I was a major between 1969 and 73.
Well, all
So I'm
right.
going to tell you right now, this was big time.
Yeah.
This and what
Well,
was going on in Asia with the China-India confrontation, and also the takeover of Chile, with U.S. Assistance. All of that stuff was going on at the same, and as well as the Vietnam War.
well, look at what happened this week, right? You have Putin and China courting each other while the U.S. is, while Biden goes to Israel, hugs Netanyahu, does not meet with the Arab leaders because they've
They
canceled.
wouldn't. They didn't want to have it. They didn't want to have the meeting.
And then Biden comes out strong with his speech. He's going to give aid to. He wants to give aid to Israel and wants to give aid to Ukraine. And then here in the United States, the Republicans can't even get it together to get a Speaker of the House. So it just all looks like uh, what's brewing is something that is maybe worse than an inflection point. Certainly
Yes,
not.
yes, potentially yes,
Yeah,
potentially yes, because now we're sitting here essentially as observers.
yeah,
There are commitments that have already been made. There's aid still being sent to Ukraine, but there's need for further assistance, particularly to Israel. Okay,
right, yeah,
and then we got the matter of humanitarian assistance to
oh yeah,
Palestinians. So you have all of these different conflicting potentially issues, and the United States is sitting there being observers to the idiocy of one political party in the lower house of Congress. Okay,
yeah,
so people have to look at what their responsibilities are. These people voted for Trump. They voted for the Republican Party as is understood by watching people like Gates, by like Green, like Boebert, Feely Touchy Boebert,
yeah, yeah,
this is what we've got going. And those are just the top three. That
yeah.
Jim Jordan, he's got to be running. I'll tell you one of the other reasons he's running. He's running the same reason that Trump is running for president because it'll protect him. He thinks, right, from further prosecution,
Oh, right.
criminal prosecution. And Jordan is just as susceptible to that. And if we have a Democratic win and we take the lower house, let me tell you, Jordan ain't getting away. Holly is not getting away. Ted Cruz is not getting away.
Well, they were all
Your
in on
buddy, your Uncle Lindsay, is not getting away.
January 6th.
Absolutely.
They were all part of it, and so this is one of the reasons why we have a dysfunctional government. As long as that lower house right now is in the hands of the Republicans, we can't move. And I hope people are taking notes and saying, "Hey, this can't happen. Well, we got to vote against." Uh, these guys, but then people look at Biden, and I don't think he's getting some credit for Israel, but I don't think he's getting the kind of credit he deserves for being the adult in the room, making sure that nothing blows up.
Well,
I
what
mean,
did you think of his speech last night?
I thought it was good. I thought it could be, I mean, he's not the most inspiring orator at times, but he didn't go to Irish poetry. He was straight. He was direct. I thought he was good. He made the case, and he simply said, "Look, we've got to do this because this is a good investment for America. This is gonna this is gonna reverberate over the next for generations if we don't act now." I mean, he said that. He made the case that Hamas is more Putin. Hamas does not equal the Palestinians. I think he said everything that needed to be said. The question is, are Americans listening? And do Americans, at some point, Americans just sort of put themselves in a bubble and say, "We're America. We can't be hurt, but we can." And I don't
Yeah.
think
Well.
I don't think they realize.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What
so
were
I
you doing? Well, on the morning that 9/11 was going on, after the first tower was hit, what were you doing?
I was watching CNBC aghast at what was happening to my 401k.
Oh,
I
jeez.
I think. Well, I was up with the markets, and that's how I saw it. If I wasn't up with the markets, I probably would have been asleep. and then
Right.
waking up and saying, "Oh my God, this has been going on for 3 hours in America." And a lot of San Franciscans were involved in what things that happened in 9/11 because they were on airplanes and they're going
Right.
back and forth. Um, no, I just think that people need to be aware and they need to tap into reliable sources because I mean you see what happens in the Middle East. They're reacting because they don't like what they're seeing in Western media. And I think you got to go to different sources. You got to go to newspapers and you got to go to different radio and TV sources, not just the same old ones. If you're you know into the Fox silo, you got to jump over to the other silos to see what they're saying, and then you have to make your decision, or you have to come away with something that is going to be fact based. But in the end, I think if you look at the actors, who's acting and what they're doing, I think you have to say Biden's really at the forefront, and he needs to be rewarded for at least taking the stands that he has. Although I read today where some Arab Americans are very upset with Biden because he's so pro-Israel,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah. There's a lot. There's
and
a
there's,
lot of
there's
that.
still a lot of that. I think
But
you can.
but they're not. But they're not threatening Democrats, and they're
Yeah,
not threatening Mr. Biden with
yeah,
death.
yeah,
They're not calling up members of their families and threatening them with death. On
right,
the other hand,
yeah,
you know,
right. In terms of the Jim
the
Jordan.
Jordan so-called political campaign for the speakership.
Yeah, well, the third vote was a bust. He's not going
Oh,
to.
come on, 16, man, go for it. Break the freaking record. Go for it.
Yeah,
Show you got huevos. You
yeah.
know, you
I
got huevos.
I just you know my theory is you know Trump started this all right. Trump not giving up, not giving any quarter, not just going down with the ship, not knowing when to
Yeah, but he
say
couldn't. He wouldn't be able to get away with it unless there were people who support him. So
yeah,
it's that simple. We got a substantial portion of people in American society with the right to vote
yeah,
who willingly support him. They ignore everything that's going on against him, including 91 freaking felonies.
yeah,
Okay, uh, four separate indictments so far, right? And now we got people. They're doing what we talked about months ago, which is how many of these clowns that are witnesses are going to flop. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
when Georgia came up with their list of witnesses, we're sitting there saying that person's weak, that
yeah,
person's weak, that person has said the most ridiculous things that are the easiest to prove as outright lies, and
yeah,
and that they did it intentionally, right? And so
yeah.
now we've got two that have pled out.
Yeah,
Okay,
Powell and Cheeseborough,
yeah,
and I think that's you can't predict what's going to happen, but this is a good sign for the good guys and a
it's
bad
going to be
sign.
very interesting. It's going to be
Yeah,
fun to watch.
yeah,
Okay, and it'll be more realistic in real terms, right?
yeah.
But people are still not going to accept. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to change the minds of people who are hard set
Well,
pro
this
Trump
is
right now.
this is the
Okay,
problem that nothing. I mean, at some point they just side with whoever's going to win, and if your guy's the bad guy, but if he's going to win, you back him. If he's the only thing he got going, you back him. And it's sad that it goes beyond logic. It goes beyond morals. But there are Republicans who are willing to go down with the ship.
yeah,
And
I don't. Okay, I think you're being generous. I think there are a couple of Trump is not ideological, right? He
right,
just he pretended to be ideological, but when you look at his pre-presidential announcement, his record before that, he mostly sidled up to the liberals, to
right,
Democrats and the
yeah,
liberals. Okay, so
yeah,
then he changed because he had a shot. He knew he had a shot. Everybody was thinking, that's ridiculous," and I was saying, "Hey, man, he got the TV show and people believe it." And my my students looked at me with shock, particularly after you could grab him by the blank,
yeah.
and I said, no, this guy could still win. And my TAs were shocked. I had two or three TAs, and they looked at me like, "Wow, man!" And then
It,
when it all came down, one of my TAs put it out on Facebook and Twitter. He said, "Man, Gonzalez called it all, right down the line." And I said, "That ain't the first time, folks."
yeah. Well, look, people people want to go with the winner, right? And even if they
I think you're
disagree,
so generous. They
well,
want to go. They want to go with the racist, misogynistic sob.
uh,
That's what they want to do. Come on now.
look, if there was a non-racist sob who could win, they go. I mean,
That'd be even better.
if there was
That'd
an
be even better.
if there was an
They have
alternative,
more of a yeah. Okay, go ahead.
if there was an alternative to Trump, they'd go. But there's no alternative. There's no person who could challenge Trump and win. That's why the Republicans are stuck with, okay, he's our guy. You know,
Well, but
he's bad on race.
they got stuck with him by what September
Well,
of that year, you know,
yeah,
of 2016. They got stuck with him by September. If
yeah,
there were people who early on said they said it was ridiculous, right? They said people aren't going to vote for this guy, and then when he started winning primary state contests, right? You know,
mm.
and then he was kicking everybody's butt off the freaking. Remember how
Well,
many people they had to have two separate debates, right? You know, they had the high low, they had a high low system, right?
yeah.
So, and they went through all of those people and came down to the last 4 or 5, and he kicked their butts.
Yeah. Well, look, that October, right? I mean, that's when the grab them by the short hairs.
McClellan, yeah,
That tape came out.
yeah.
But you figure that was the October surprise, and maybe that's going to put Hillary over, but it
No,
didn't.
no. They people underestimated the misogynistic hatred of Hillary
Yeah.
Clinton.
And so, yeah, and then it's still strong. And so I don't know.
No, he's running against Obama. Didn't you know that?
Well,
Charles,
isn't it funny? Yesterday or this week at Harvard, there was a protest at the business school. Obama was going to go talk there, but some pro-Palestinian groups were out there blaming Obama for courting Israel, and they were there protesting Obama.
okay.
And
Well, then, you know, I mean, there's a legitimate reason to criticize him. You know,
oh yeah, yeah,
you thought the policy was too soft, and this is where we end up.
yeah.
They had high. One of the problems with Obama is people had higher expectations that he could possibly meet. Okay,
Oh yeah, it was
I
almost
said that from the onset. You know, when it was clear that he probably was going to win, you know,
yeah.
because of some of the late stuff coming out about Romney, he was going to be tight. You know, it was going to be really close, but he was probably going to win.
Mhm.
uh, People were saying, "Oh, you know, they're all enraptured." Yeah, they said, "Well, this is good." Particularly women. I saw women of color really get excited about this, and I
Yeah.
think part of that was, a revenge for Hillary. But that's what they did. They came out with high expectations for him. I said, the dude was a community organizer, man.
Yeah.
He was not. He's not a hyper radical. He's not a hyper progressive. He's kind of a middle of the road guy, from a lower middle, no, working class to lower middle class background.
Hawaii, from Hawaii.
Yeah, from Hawaii. So luckily, he's always been enthusiastic about Filipinos, which I kind of, that's one of
Well,
my
that was one of
biases,
the
right?
reasons why the veteranos bill passed.
And the gold medal thing too.
Because of him. But I
Yeah,
mean, those were important. But they, I don't know. They
yeah.
were
No,
important.
he was hamstrung, and the whole Democratic Party was hamstrung after their successful passage of Obamacare.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Okay,
That was
look.
it. After that second year, they were done. So even though they got another 2 years in the first term and another 4 years in the second term, they were hamstrung. They couldn't get anything done because they were the party of no, and the Republicans had been the party of no even before Obama.
Well, Obama. Look, his lasting legacy will be the healthcare thing,
Yes.
and then after that, he ran out of capital. And, he ran. He was out there just defending the healthcare. So and other areas, not as strong, and then Trump came in.
Well, he got Bin Laden, right?
Yeah. Oh
After
yeah.
after all of the big talk by Republicans, and they're criticizing Democrats for being weak on terrorism. He
Yeah.
got Obama. But Obama got Bin Laden. Okay, so that was unexpected, but it didn't give the kind of excitement, right, about Obama's successes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It
and Obamacare was disliked by a majority of Americans. They,
now they like it.
yeah,
Now,
they were people. Remember the Tea Party?
oh yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
United States has the best Medicare system, medical system in the world. And my wife spent over 50 years in the medical system
yeah,
as a professional, and all of her friends, were also members of that field, those field doctors and nurses and everybody, technicians. And we were all looking at each other and saying, "Man, is that off the wall or what?"
yeah,
Don't get sick, old folks, you Tea Partiers, because you might not like the way you get treated, right? But that's what they're saying. We
yeah.
don't need this stuff, you know.
Hey, Dan, I want to return a bit to back to the campus talk because that's not going away. Some of the the protests, um, maybe I mean there was a die-in at Harvard on Wednesday. Um, I just don't think it's going to go away. But I want to talk about this idea that a lot of people of color, Filipinos, African Americans, they look at the Palestinians and they want to embrace their view and they become pro Hamas and anti Israel. And what would you say to them to caution them against doing that?
Uh, you know, it's always the same warning,
Mm.
and I can go all the way back to a person that the Republicans would then call me some kind of freaking communist. But
Is that,
one of the guys, yeah, well, because I'm going to cite Karl Marx.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Karl Marx, his big thing was you have to have an accurate and honest critical perspective on history. It has to be factual, it has to be honest, it has to be without bias as much as possible. Okay? So, regardless of what you think of Marxism, socialism, and communism, you can look at his analytical method and say, yeah, that's an important rule. Okay? That's an important rule. I don't know that they've done that. There's one sidedness and bias presented by both sides.
Yeah.
Ironically, 2 days before the attack on the 7th, I saw an email. It might have been a little older than that, but I saw the email around the 4th or 5th. And it said, I urge, it was from a person, I believe a member of the faculty elsewhere on the campus. I urge people to read my perspective, you know, on Palestine and Israel, and include that perspective in ethnic studies courses that are now going to be taught right throughout the system, the educational system in California. And then 2 days, 3 days later, October 7th happens. Um, Now it's going to be even more difficult for people who, even if they're, I didn't read the article yet. Okay, I will after this show, but
Yeah.
um, uh, even people who have a rational middle of the road position, and including criticisms, right, of Israeli treatment of Palestinians that goes way back, right? The conflict goes way back, even before the founding of the nation state of Israel, right? Um, I just don't think that it's going to be easier for pro-Israeli, pro-Israel material to be included now in those ethnic studies courses, right? And the question is, how biased are they? How sensitive are they? And so it really comes down to content. Every time we've had new programs started, including with ethnic studies, my whole perspective was way back in '69, right, when we were just formulating the curriculum. What's the content and what's the perspective?
Yeah. Well, I get you. I hope that it's not too late. I hear a lot. Here's a quote from someone at Harvard. He started an African American group that is pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli. He said that we love life, therefore we love liberation. We love life, therefore we oppose occupation. It's what formulates our position against the apartheid regime. We know the root violence in Palestine and Israel is a fascist genocidal government. So maybe a bit simplistic, but that a lot of people are going out to protest with that belief, and that I guess goes into learn a little more about what's going on and isolate the past with the present, where Hamas has bombed and terrorized Israel October 7th, and concentrate on what that means before you know make a blanket statement that Hamas equals Palestine, Palestine equals Hamas.
Yeah, one of the positions that is dead center on all that is peace now, just a halt to all hostilities.
Mhm.
And the reason that's not going to happen is because Israel cannot afford to allow Hamas, to roll with no attack. They have to be put on the defensive,
Yeah.
and so we can't expect that there's going to be a ceasefire.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Israel has a right to defend itself, but at what point do you say to Israel? I mean, Joe Biden said it the other night. He said, let your rage, don't let your rage get the best of you,
That's
essentially.
right. Yep.
And he said, the United States made mistakes, after 9/11. Don't make the same mistakes. I think that he was telling Israel to temper whatever it is, your response. I think, and now you're seeing more humanitarian aid flow into Gaza. But, how much retaliation do you want to mete out against the Palestinians in Gaza? And how do you know you're not going to impact innocent people and not just those of Hamas? That,
Yeah. What do you think the attitude of the Israeli government and the Israeli military is going to be when
yeah.
they start rolling into the Strip
Well,
and maybe the West Bank as well?
yeah, I mean, our mutual friend, who I've been in communication with since October 7th, says he fully expects the ground war to start this weekend. And, that, you know, only because his knowledge of Hamas is they're out to get the only good Jew is a dead Jew, really, essentially. And because he understands that to be their belief, there can be no road to peace, at least not now, not yet. We hope, and I think there can be if people remember Palestine, say 10 years ago, when they had a booming economy and there was a really robust talk about two state solutions.
Right. It's
and
true.
now and now we and even Muslim Americans, people here, are upset. They're not all pro Hamas, pro Palestinian to the point of embracing Hamas. They say, we've worked hard to improve, to fight Islamophobia, to fight the kind of anti-Islamic sentiment that exists in America, and now Hamas has set us back.
Yep.
And
No, no
and we're
question.
seeing it. We're seeing Islamophobic reactions as well as anti-Semitic reactions, and it's it's just part of that overall divide that exists everywhere politically that we're trying to overcome. But it's hard to overcome when you have instances like these. So
Yeah. Well, our mutual friend, as you put it, and
yeah,
I'm making an assumption about who that is, but he's he's had definitely a bias towards Israel for
yeah,
many many for
yeah,
many decades. For many decades.
yeah. He's got a bias. He's got a bias toward Israel, but I don't think that I don't think he's
I don't
wrong.
think he's wrong.
I
Yeah,
don't think he's
right.
wrong.
He's not wrong. He's right.
Yeah, I don't think he's wrong on Hamas, and I don't think he's wrong after you see what Hamas has done. I mean, uh,
It's real
definitely,
interesting that they released two American,
yeah.
hostages.
Well, because they've got to appease the United States somewhat. Here's two hostages. What if they release Israeli hostages? I think our mutual friend says that many of the or most Israelis are resigned to believe that all the hostages are gone. I mean, that's a sad thing, but that's the
Well,
kind.
it's sad in two different directions, right? It's sad
Yeah.
because of the loss of life and the personal tragedies,
Mhm.
but it's also sad because it allows people to think in terms of heavy retaliation as
Right,
as fully rationalized.
right, right. Well, I mean, in some ways, this is, um,
Oh, we should let the audience know that our mutual friend was an officer of the U.S. Army at one time,
yeah, yeah,
and,
okay,
and and an attorney as well. So
yeah. So he's, he knows something, and like I said, I find it interesting that our point of common ground now is the fact that Hamas is a terrorist group, and that I've always been more pro-Israeli than not, but not so overtly biased. I like to be um, more more objective, say. But I don't think there's any way that how can you be pro Hamas at this point?
yeah,
I don't see it. Anyway, so our friend, the Filipino American in Israel, in a real well, he's there in October. October is Filipino American History Month. Let's switch over to talk about. We had a Filipino American History 101 a couple weeks ago. What did you think of that for the Filipino American National Historical Society, Dan?
I thought it was an interesting concept. People on the first day tended to try to stay to the 5 minute limit.
Yeah,
Uh, but so my reaction is for both days, too many people, too short a time.
yeah. Well, too much Filipino American history, really.
There's a whole lot.
Yeah,
There's
there's
a whole
there's a
lot.
lot, and I was the moderator of the second day, and I purposely made it longer by I guess an hour and a half, only because I thought that more people wanted to hear the stories of
And they did. They wanted to hear more complete treatments of the
yeah,
stories.
yeah.
The,
Although it was long, but
well, the problem was that a couple of key people, didn't get to speak. So,
yeah.
and
Well,
it started to slow down when we got to martial law and
yeah,
the post martial law
yeah.
history.
Some people I couldn't find them. I mean, I didn't.
Well, some of them left.
Yeah, some left. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is, look, this is one time, and we'll do it again, and the month is long, and
See,
Filipino.
I would say do it with fewer people, um, and screen the topics really well,
Yeah.
and then do it on a regular basis.
Well,
I
that's
think
not bad. That's a good idea. I think you're right. I think the way it was set up, we wanted to be well. I I think my period between post World War II and to present day uh, ended up dovetailing a bit more with you know you know pre pre World War II, only because that's
yeah.
most of the
Well,
people.
the war was an end of a period. It was also the beginning of a period.
Yeah,
So it represented a moment of really drastic change in the composition
yeah.
of the Filipino American community, Filipino American society. Literally within the span of 2 years, it was converted from a bachelor society to a family centric society.
Right. And I think a lot of people, weren't well. A lot of us lived through that, right? A lot of us lived through, my father, my
Sure,
father certainly
sure
bachelor
did, bro.
society, and then later on the family centric society, and the families weren't always welcome. Some were, some weren't. It depends.
Welcomed by whom? You mean into the general society, or
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, by the
yeah.
general society, but if you fought in the war, if you were in the army, that was your entree to the American middle class. And we talked
For
about it.
some ethnic groups, black men weren't. They didn't get the benefits of all that. It
Yeah,
depended on where. You know, it was a regional thing. It depended on where they
Right.
lived.
But out in the West, some black families
Yeah,
were able.
they were able to, especially if they lived in San Francisco or L.A. You know,
But I know in the South, not
Seattle.
much. Yeah. All right. So we this week was a special day, or a special week because it contains the very day the very first Filipinos arrived, October 18th. And I made a big deal about it on my Aldef blog. I like to every year, October 18th,
Yeah.
and talking about those first Filipinos in 1587, October 18th, who came here on a boat. They were on a Spanish galleon boat,
Nuestra Senora de what? I forgot.
the Esperanza,
Esperanza, Hope,
Our Lady
Our
of Good.
Lady of Hope.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they came from Macau because Pedro de Unamuno was stuck out in Macau. He was sailing with Sir Philip Galley and they were shipwrecked somewhere. De Unamuno ended up in Macau, got money together to get a boat and get some Filipinos, and they sailed east for what is now Morro Bay in California.
Or
So
thereabout, or thereabouts.
we're there, yeah, or thereabouts. It's still somewhat. I mean, there's a question, but this is
But
based.
there's a plaque there now. There's a plaque there. It's no
There,
more argument. No more argument, please. There's a plaque there.
yeah, but it was scholarship based on. It was published in the Amerasia Journal. Luisa Bora uh, wrote the the paper that went over the logs of Pedro de Unamuno, citing Filipinos on the ship, and she said that ordinarily there weren't, they were overlooked, but this is the first time it was documented. But even though it was 33 years before, and I like to mention this, 33 years before before the Mayflower, before the Pilgrims, 1587, but they did not colonize. They did not create a community.
To our knowledge. To
Yeah.
our knowledge. They didn't create a community that established an identity.
Mm,
Okay. They did interact with the Chumash, as far as we know,
yeah.
because there are some Chumash, oral history mention of it. But they didn't establish a colony. The same thing happened when they were landing in the south, near Baton Rouge and New Orleans. The same thing happened there, but they landed later, almost 200 years, right? Later, and they established a community with an identity. So we can see the growth of those communities. Our coon ass Filipino
Yeah.
was an
Yeah.
excellent
I mean,
interview.
when I went down there to check them out, there were Filipino families there. There were
Yeah,
Filipino generations, and
yeah.
and that was unique. I, I I don't suppose you really see that around Morro Bay. I mean, that would date back to 1587.
Well,
Maybe,
there were no pre-established European style, Western style institutions.
yeah,
Baton Rouge and New Orleans, they already had those names.
yeah,
And so there were already Western style institutions there. Um, and the contact that the Filipinos had was with indigenous people uh,
right.
around somewhere around Santa Barbara, etc. Up
So,
in that
so
area.
let me ask you this, Dan. Does All right? We didn't establish a community. We didn't establish an identity. But the fact that we're first does mean something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What
It
does
does.
it
It does. But because we didn't establish a history, by establishing a community,
mean?
other than the fact that we made contact, and it's in the colonial record, the colonizers' record, right? Because that's who we were working for.
Yeah,
Uh, that kind of diminishes, the level of importance of that contact in the eyes of many. For me, it's still really important
yeah,
because that was the first of continuous contacts with the New World from the West, from Asia, and we were engaged in that process all throughout the following period, after 1587 and beyond. So that makes it important. even though we don't necessarily have a full record. There was the skirmish, right? There was some killing going on.
Filipino blood was dropped.
That's right.
Filipino blood was dropped.
That's right.
So I mean, so it counts, but it could have counted for more.
Could have counted for more,
But it
but
doesn't mean it's nothing. It doesn't mean it's nothing.
that's right.
It wasn't like, oh, we walked the dog around the block and then we left. It was
No, are you not leading up to dog jokes in Filipino?
no. But tell me though,
What?
the fact. I mean, were Chinese here before us? Were Japanese? Were any other Asian
They
groups?
may have been, but they didn't leave a record either.
There's no record.
But there are things that some people believe are stone anchors, right? Off of San Diego, off of Santa Barbara, things like that. And it's these big rocks with a hole in the middle, and it looks like they were shaped not by nature, because there aren't a whole bunch of other rocks like it in the same neighborhood. They were sort of individual pieces that were out of place in terms of what else was on the sea bottom at the time. So they're looking at those and saying, well, there were other people with seafaring ability that could have made it before the Filipinos got here, and they were on Spanish ships, and occasionally on Portuguese ships. And we had to be on English ships too later, but I haven't seen anybody do
right.
really.
That's right.
Yeah,
On
I
the
haven't
East
seen.
Coast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, the British, in the early 1800s,
Right. They
were checking out the Philippines.
Yeah.
I think the record that I saw was too many freaking mosquitoes. The weather was hella humid. It was just you were sticky. You had to take a bath 3 times a day, and the mosquitoes were incredible.
Boy, I wish the British had taken over, because we'd be much better at soccer. We'd be much better at soccer. And
the Spanish are winning like crazy today. But soccer wasn't even a game back then. But
yeah, well, the British, they were in India.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, so the
And
idea,
they gave them cricket.
yeah, the idea of an Anglo-Asian, not that far off. They could have been Anglo-Asian Filipino.
And everybody got mestizoized and colonized. Everybody got mestizoized and colonized. So
yeah.
I think you're probably about 5 or 6% lighter than me, and so you're going to get better treatment. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's the light. If I turn off my light,
my mother would criticize me all the time.
Look
Every
at
summer.
Look at that. Look
Every
at that.
No, that's just shadow. That's not color. That's shadow. Yeah. Well, no, my mother would criticize me every summer. Why do you make yourself so dark?
I know. They have cream. You can get.
Yeah, they have cream now. Yeah, if they had FTS 1000, my mother would have that shit on.
Yeah. So Dan, okay, so we talked about now Filipino American History Month lasts until Halloween.
Yeah.
And we have Larry Leong's birthday.
That's really appropriate too.
Well, yeah, All Souls or All Souls Eve or what?
I think we should have like duende masks and
Duendes are they're like the goblins, right? Or
well, sort of. They're mini goblins, right?
Mini goblins.
They in some cultures, I know the Cebuano culture a little bit more, but they inhabit the root systems of the banyan trees. So when you go by a tree that has roots, you have to excuse, beg passage. Pardon me, I'm just going to go here.
Because I've seen duende used, I guess, more in the Spanish as a kind of energy, kind of not necessarily a spirit, not necessarily a goblin, but for the Filipinos would see duende as goblin. I saw it more used as a kind of a pizzazz, a kind of like a, I don't know.
In Spain?
Well, I guess it had to be Spanish in origin. The guy I saw using it was he was a columnist at the Boston Globe in the 70s. His name is George Fraser, but his big phrase was duende,
and he would use it in what context?
In the context of this was like a kind of special quality, like a a jazziness, a
Yeah. So it's
spirit.
a positive. It was a positive.
It was a positive. Yeah, it's like if you have duende, you have it. You know,
Huh.
um,
Huh.
and but I never heard it in the Filipino context except maybe within the last 10, 15 years. People talking about duende. So anyway, we got Larry Itliong's birthday coming up on the 25th, I believe, of October.
Yeah, he's a
So
Scorpio. That's a Scorpio, and no wonder.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but people, talking about about the importance of the labor movement and the civil rights movement, and the importance of of Itliong. Although he really had time that he had to fight because by the time it was by the time he got his close up, the Filipinos were all old.
Well,
And
yeah, yeah, it was a generational problem. This
yeah,
is true.
yeah,
This is true.
and yet it's
You know, because World War II, opened up the GI Bill, and a lot of the people who may have gone back to the fields didn't.
yeah,
They got city jobs or suburban jobs,
right.
and so it was very difficult for them to reorganize as well. But there was a Filipino farm labor movement before the war,
Oh yeah,
but the
yeah,
war interrupted that, and then to try and reestablish it was very difficult. So
yeah. I there was mention of that Salinas strike and
sure,
the 30s, and at the Filipino American 101, I think the Saturday version,
yep, yep.
and Itliong was mentioned, but he wasn't at the front lines then. Um, he didn't really emerge as the leader until the 60s, which is 30 years later.
Well, asparagus strike.
Yeah,
He's mentioned along with the Monsalves brothers
yeah,
and Philip Veracruz
mm,
and the rest of the group that ended up having uh, officer positions in
mm,
the UFW once the UFW was formed.
yeah,
But yeah, but Larry left in a huff. He was pissed. He was very angry.
yeah. And
Around
I got
71.
I got that sense too. But he deserves more credit than he's gotten. He's getting more attention. And we'll talk more about Larry Itliong the closer we get to him. But people should look up Larry.
Well, it's next week already.
Yeah. Oh my God. Next week. Yeah. Next week.
Today's the 20th now. Yeah.
Yeah. 20th. So, Dan,
Yes, sir.
I think we
You
like
want
to
to
cut
wrap it? Want
it
to
short,
wrap it up?
wrap it. Hey, look, I'm going to my high school reunion,
Okay.
and I'm trying to remember why it was important to go to high school, and it was important, but I'm trying to think of the things, and it just seems like so long ago now that it's not.
Well, dude, it was. You mean it doesn't just seem like it? It was a long time ago,
Uh,
dude.
Thanks a lot. Well, I just I don't know if I have the same kind of feelings about my high school that I
Okay,
did.
so give us a
That's
couple of
normal. That makes me normal,
give
really.
us a yeah. Well, I wouldn't stretch it
Well,
that far.
it's just that I'm still all
You
right.
heard
So
it first. Emil Guillermo claimed normality.
yeah, no, I just I'm looking forward to seeing some old friends, and I saw some old friends in New York. When I went to New York for to do my show, a couple high school friends are there. We got together. We had nice.
Oh, that's good. That's
Nice
great.
meal. Yeah, it's like, and then they're they're more conservative and richer than I am. So so
Are you connecting the two? Like, if you were more conservative, you'd be richer.
no, I'm what I'm saying
That's a
is
bad statement to make to your
no,
audience.
no, no. I'm just saying that things have changed. I mean, I saw them there when I knew them. They were fairly modest, um, and now they're really conservative. And
What neighborhood were they from back then?
the Richmond district. Now
Okay, yeah.
here's the interesting thing that we can still be friends. We don't agree on anything politically, but
No
we.
kidding. Are they Trumpers?
Uh, I think they may have been. I think they may have been. I just know that they are conservative,
Yeah.
and they may have gone party line conservative. Also, corporate lawyers and white. So like I said,
Well, the great threat back then when you were going there was Chinese, and
yeah,
a few years before you, the great threat was Jews.
yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
that's true. Yeah.
there was a lot of anti-Semitic attitude.
Well, now this guy is a Jewish guy, and he talked about the
Well,
anti.
corporate. You said corporate lawyer. What are the
Yeah.
odds? What are
Well,
the odds?
but he talked about the anti-Semitism that he faced. So,
Yeah, right
the
on.
thing is, I think the fact that we were friends allowed us to have a richer conversation than if we were not friends. We would just kind of shut off at all the little, typical points where people just shut off and say, "Yeah, no need to discuss this." But because we're friends,
What
we're
is
able.
this going to be the 50th for you, or what is it?
Yeah, yeah, it's up there. It's a
That's a
round number.
biggie.
It's a round number, but it's important because it helps me put in perspective what happened. And
Well, all kinds of stuff happened, man. I
uh,
mean, that
yeah,
that 10-year period, including when you were at Lowell,
yeah,
and for years afterwards, was just unbelievable. You know how the amount of critical hostilities, right, that were going on in a really compressed period.
toward
In addition to Vietnam, right?
yeah,
So Vietnam and the civil rights movement were constants all throughout that time.
yeah,
Uh, the civil rights movement was experiencing more gains than the peace movement. You know, it took a lot longer for the peace movement to develop, even though the same people that were pro civil rights were anti Vietnam War.
yeah,
So that shows you how that dynamic can be affected by other popular opinion outside those movements. You know,
yeah.
among
But
the American majority.
but now I was in the fringe, right at the margin, right, not at the height of that period, but we're talking 73, so the war was kind of over. Um, Nixon was the president.
Yeah, the
And,
war was over, but they were arguing about what the shape and size of the table was going to be. Remember that stupid
oh
stuff?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and also even civil rights was voting rights 65, civil rights 64.
Roe versus Wade, dude.
Yeah, yeah. By 73, there was still it was still new.
Sure, but that was in my opinion, that was the maximum leftward movement of Supreme Court decisions.
What Roe v.
Roe
Wade
versus Wade. That was the maximum.
was that? That was
In the mid
73.
'60s, you had Escobedo and Miranda, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Those
yeah,
kinds of cases, that broadened the meaning of the Fifth and Sixth Amendments, right? Well, Fourth Amendment too. So probable cause,
mm,
right to an attorney, and due process, right, of the Fifth.
yeah.
So all of those things got broadened within a very short period of time by the Warren Court. And
Right,
what you see now is the so-called Republican conservative right trying to undo that.
right.
And this stuff is Miranda is what, almost, it'll be 60 years old in a couple of years, right? I think Escobedo may have been first. I always get those confused, but they were both mid 60s, 65, 66. So
Yeah, the loop is narrow.
really compressed.
Yeah, compressed. Yeah, and so yeah, we're going backwards.
We are.
We're definitely
Well,
back.
if those guys win,
Right.
and unfortunately, in many states, it comes down to a state by state movement, and many states are accepting those reversals.
Yeah, that's one way to look at this 50-year period, that we were at the beginning of maybe, or maybe it's the broadest, widest birth of a kind of liberal America.
I agree. That
Yeah.
just is a more poetic way of saying what I said 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just that was the time.
Yep.
and we should be lucky that we were able to get old and watch it all degenerate.
Well,
Right? I mean, because
the
that's what
period
it
of
did.
degenerating
Yeah.
began with what is porn? What
What,
what is porn?
the
And
First
they
Amendment, right? The
First
first,
Amendment.
yeah,
First Amendment. It was the biggest First Amendment issue. That and what constituted political speech back then.
yeah, and there's dirty words
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
FCC and so that was how we went from the last 50 years to go back 50 years when we were at the apex of our liberalism,
There you go.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, like the gradual shrinking down to like now I'm an old man and our
Sure. But by
liberalism.
76, 77, 78, Supreme Court decisions, especially the state Supreme Courts, started reversing what had happened in the 60s. And
Right,
so
right.
not enough of those cases got heard by the Warren Court. But by, during the last couple of years of the Warren Court, and when Frankfurter, right, was getting ready to take over, the they started talking the Republican right stuff,
Yeah,
which is we're too permissive,
yeah,
right? There's moral decay in American society, and so they looked at porn, and they said, "Look how sick that is," and
yeah.
everybody, of course, went out to buy it.
Yeah,
And
well,
that,
they in order to rule against it, they had to see
you
it.
had to understand it,
They had to understand it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's why we're
Does it really depict human sexual behavior? Is it really true? If it's one sided,
yeah.
right, and there's only one human being involved, is it pornographic because there's not two people involved in it? So in specific terms, it's not really sex. It's a sexual activity, but it's not really sex.
It's therapy. That's what therapeutic.
Oh,
It, it,
I remember when human sexuality courses started, and
oh yeah, yeah,
everybody made them general education, right? They
yeah.
said
Oh yeah.
it's only necessary that we have people understand the reality of human sexuality. And so every college that I ever knew or understood, the junior college, it didn't matter, junior college, 4-year college, graduate institutions, PhDs, they all had human sexuality
Yeah.
courses.
Well,
And
yeah, Dan, we
there were guys that would wear their sweats to class, and they looked like they were building a tent in their lap.
but now human sexuality classes
It's every
it's like
day. It's
passe now.
nothing. Yeah, yeah. It's no big deal. But then look who's after it though.
Oh
Look,
yeah,
look who wants to ban that stuff, right?
yeah. Well,
Okay.
this is the thing, and now we've got the ban on affirmative action,
Yep.
right? That's what we've seen. It's almost like 50 years ago we were at the height, the enlarge, and we were free and the apex, and now we have the blocked prostate
Right.
of life of,
Ow.
of democracy.
Ouch.
Yeah, we just yeah, we need something.
Yeah.
So so I'm gonna I guess disco is not the big. People say, "Oh, well, what kind of music did you play in the '70s? Did you
Oh
play?"
man.
Disco did not kick in till '75, so that was
Well,
not.
because of Saturday Night Fever,
Yeah,
I mean, it
but
was popularized that way, but
I know, but '73, the big song in '73 were songs like Kodachrome by Paul Simon, Daniel by Elton John. It was not a big dance craze era. I don't know what we were
it
dancing to.
depended on what city you were in. If you were
Or
in New York, L.A., San Francisco,
yeah.
then dance music was big time. I
All right.
can tell you why I know.
All right.
It's
So what
because
was all
we
right,
didn't get
you're in the
we.
band. You're in the band
Yeah,
and you
that's right. I was in a
people
band.
up off the floor. What do you play?
Oh well, in San Francisco, we always thought of ourselves the core 4-piece core. It's a 9-piece band, but we always thought of ourselves as wannabe jazzers. But
Uh,
and so we were envious of the Kurumotos and the birth of Hiroshima. All right, that group.
yeah.
Um, we played with them. at least once that I can remember.
So what
Um,
was
we were
what's
on the same
the
bill with
dance
him.
song? The
So
dance.
anyway, but we had a full percussion section. We had timbales and congas, and
Uh-huh.
so we could do Latin. And this was the rise of Latin rock. Was initiated by a guy named Carlos Santana, right? And
Oh
all
yeah.
these various bands that followed up. There were at least what 4 or 5 really huge groups, including the Escobedos, right? They
Yeah.
had a huge Latin jazz band, and they did crossover music. They did Latin jazz rock,
So
fusion
you
music.
play Oye Como
So,
Va.
so yeah, but that was old by then, and we were doing a lot more straight up stuff.
Oh,
Black
okay.
Magic Woman came out, in like
Yeah.
'71 or something. But
All right.
anyway, then there
Yeah.
was also the great rock groups and the great funk groups. So we got people don't know who the hell Sly Stone is.
Oh,
The
Slice
younger
Stone.
generation does not know who the hell Sly Stone is. So I have to play the music, and they go, "Oh, that's Sly Stone," and
Yeah.
I go, "Yeah, yeah."
Oh, I know Slice Stone. Yes.
Vallejo guy, when he started making money, bought his parents a house not far from my house,
He
over in
used to
the
be a
Ingleside
DJ
Terrace
on
area.
used to be a
Yeah.
DJ on K-Soul.
Queso, can I
Case,
dedicate?
yeah,
Can I
can,
dedicate? You could
yeah,
call in and ask him to spin something, and he would take a dedication for you.
all right, now look, I'm looking up songs in 1973. These are my songs from senior year. We're an American Band by Grand Funk.
Yeah, they
Real,
were okay.
they're okay. Midnight Train to Georgia, Gladys Knight
That
and
was
the
great, Gladys
that
Knight.
was
That
good.
was great too.
Now long train running, Doobie Brothers. That was
Yes,
good.
indeed. The beginning, the original Doobie Brothers.
Money by Pink Floyd for you album rockers.
Right on, right on.
Uh, Touch Me in the Morning, Diana Ross.
Right, right, right.
All right, now this sounds like a funk tune, but it's not by Gilbert O'Sullivan. Get Down.
Yeah.
But that was all right. It was kind of like
Yeah,
a poppy.
yeah.
It was a pop song. Diamond Girl, Seals and Crofts.
Sure. The Doors was still kicking.
Oh, now this was a good one.
Jim
This was
Morrison.
yeah, one of a kind love affair by the Spinners. The Spinners were big. The Spin,
The Whispers were about to move to L.A. I think they may have already moved to L.A. They
yeah,
had a regular gig in Chinatown at the Dragon a Go Go.
oh, the Whispers. I remember the Whispers. Oh, here's a group. Ramblin' Man with the Allman
The
Brothers.
Allman Brothers.
I mean, that was not a. They're more rock type. I'm
Yeah,
trying
they
to
were more folk rock.
yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, more Ramblin' Man. That was kind of like Southern rock, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so what was a song that you get on the dance? See, like here now, this is a kind of uh, the Southern rock. Can't you see the Marshall Tucker Band?
Hey man, don't you remember? It was the fight was between three groups.
Oh, what's that?
In the top 10, the
Who's that?
Beatles,
Yeah,
James Brown, and
yeah.
the Beach Boys. That was it.
No. The Led Zeppelin was in there.
They were badass, but that's hard rock, and they were really great. I
Now,
still their stuff is fantastic.
but Led
How about
Zeppelin,
Cream? Cream was
Cream was good, but Led Zeppelin had Dear Mocker and Over the Hills and Far Away. Those are two
yeah, sure.
1973. Oh, now here's a dance song.
Squeeze My Lemon.
Now here's a dance song. Jungle Boogie,
Oh no.
Cool and the Gang.
Yep, Cool in the Gang.
That's 1973. Cool and the Gang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to play that because we were doing a lot of club music. That's how we got gigs, right? But
I
he
mean,
said, "Nah, man, it was too bubblegum for them."
yeah. All right, here's another. Now this was a dance song, but not really. Elton John's "Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting."
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was that's kind of like a lively rocker you can dance to it
How
if you
about EWF, man?
well,
Earth,
Earth,
Wind, and
Wind and Fire.
Fire.
Yeah. Well, I haven't gotten them on the list. Oh, here, Cool and the Gang, Hollywood Swinging,
Yeah.
1973.
Hollywood.
Yeah, that was a good one. All
Hollywood
right, how about
Swinging.
this one? Rock the Boat, the Hughes Corporation. That was
Oh,
1973.
yeah. This is like scraping the bottom of the.
Oh no! Yeah, you'd see this on Soul Train. TSOP by MFSB. The Sound of Philadelphia.
Right,
Uh,
right.
uh,
Yeah. That stuff.
yeah, Soul Train. Let's see what else.
Average White Band was AWB.
Were they 73? I think
He was around then.
around then. I mean,
Tower of Power. Tower of Power was huge. Cold Blood was huge.
Cold Blood. Cold Blood came to Lowell High School to play. See, now we're going down memory lane. Brother Louie by the Stories. Remember that, Brother Louie? Louie,
I,
Louie, Louie,
I
Louie.
don't.
Oh, Tower of Power. Yeah. So very hard to go.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a prostate song. Okay, it took you a while there.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know if I should laugh at first. I mean, this is. It depends on how old you think our audience is, right?
Uh,
And then
uh,
what their gender like. But
well,
anyway, yeah, no,
Tower
Tower of Power was making it, man.
of Power.
They had 3 albums come out, bam, 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 just really strong. Oh,
So
you know who was really big was Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder.
5 albums in a row, man, and there wasn't one song on any one of those albums that I didn't like.
Yeah, I like Stevie Wonder, but he's not on my list here. He's not on the
Well, they're stupid. Whoever
the
made that list is inferior.
the list is songs from. It was just a list of 1973 songs, and they did not include Stevie Wonder. They do include "Behind Closed Doors" by Charlie Rich. Now, why? Why would you include that?
Because it's CW, man. It's country western, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to be
It has
represented.
Jungle Boogie, Jungle Boogie, Jungle Boogie.
See who else was big at about that time. It was more like 72. Dusty Springfield had a version of Love Music.
No, tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. That was number one. The end. This is year-end Hot 100 singles of 1973.
Aretha did Walking in the Rain with the One I Love, that Neil Sedaka tune.
Oh yeah. Okay, here's the top 10. Here's the top 10. Number 10, "Touch Me in the Morning," Diana Ross. Number 9, "You're So Vain," Carly
Oh
Simon.
boy, oh boy.
Number 8, "Will It Go Round in Circles,"
Oh yeah,
Billy Preston.
Billy Preston. We did that tune.
Billy Preston. Number 7, "Crocodile Rock."
Oh no, that was terrible. That was so bubblegum, man.
Number 6, "Why Me," Chris Christopherson. I don't remember that.
Yeah. No, I remember that, and
Remember
it was pretty good.
that? Number 5, "My Love," Paul McCartney and Wings. Number 4, oh, how can we forget? Number 4, "Let's Get It On," Marvin Gaye.
Oh man,
That was a good album.
that was a biggie.
That album had it all. Let's Get It On.
Yeah, that was a biggie.
That was,
Reminds me of Bill Graham.
yeah. I
He
mean,
was he was an out of he was crazy over head over heels
yeah.
over Marvin stuff.
I like "Let's Get It On."
Sexual Healing was his
Oh,
one of his
that
favorite
album.
tunes.
The
Yeah,
se-
it was a great tune.
It had "Sexual Healing." Yeah, that was a good album. My sister was a soulster, and even though I would have like Beach Boy albums and Herman's Hermits, things like that,
Oh God!
my sister would have the
Did you have
Whispers.
Henry VIII? You had Henry VIII. I
I
mean,
had Henry VIII,
oh God!
but my
You're
sister,
so
my
white.
my sister was the soulster. She would have
Uh,
Marvin Gaye, and she would have the Whispers and Tower of Power.
right on, sister.
Yeah, and
Right
but I
the
would
hell
listen. I would listen to them next to my Herman's Hermits.
up.
All right, now here's the
Okay.
bottom. Here's the bottom from number 40. See if you remember these. Number 40, "Diamond Girl," Seals and Crofts.
Yeah.
Number 39. Now this is a soulster. "Bloodstone," "Natural High." That
Yeah,
was
Natural High, yeah. They were a one-hit wonder pretty much.
Yeah. 38. Bobby Boris Pickett, "Monster Mash."
Oh, that's good.
1970 Monster Mash. The only song I can dance to. Number 37. Number 37. "Dancing in the Moonlight," King Harvest. You remember dancing in the. That was a
It
good
was a
one.
good song, good melody.
All right, now. Here's a song. It was below 40s. Number 43. If you want me to stay, Sly and the
Fly in
Family
a Family
Stone.
Stone.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was good. That was one of my favorite Sly Stone songs.
Yeah. Well, there was also Everyday People,
Oh,
which
yeah.
got picked
Oh, that
up
was
by
a big one.
Toyota.
That was
The
a big
Toyota
one.
used it.
Every,
Toyota used it for their commercials forever.
Everyday People was a big. Oh, here's one. Number 55, War with
Oh
Cisco.
yeah,
Yeah,
L.A. Group, excellent.
yeah,
We did their stuff too.
yeah. They're good. Oh, now look. Number 62, Stevie Wonder, Higher Ground.
Yeah, that was a good song,
It's
but
only number 62.
he
All
did
right.
many others that were just excellent.
Yeah. Number 63, the Reverend Al Green,
Oh
Here
boy,
I Am, Come and Take Me.
right. Yep, yep,
Al Green had a string of,
yep. He
oh,
did.
1973. Number 65, Curtis Mayfield,
All right,
Superfly.
Superfly.
Superfly. That was
Yeah,
a good.
but there was another song on that album. God,
Freddie's dead. Freddie's dead.
it's the no. It was the up really up tempo instrumental
Mm.
that had a drum solo
Oh,
in the
oh,
middle that was just outstanding, man.
yeah. I like Curtis Mayfield. Oh, here's one. Number 88, the Stylistics,
Oh boy,
Break Up to Make Up.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That was a good slow song.
yeah, yeah.
Break up to
Sure.
make up. It's
No,
all
yeah,
we
we
do.
did a whispers tune for the last song. We'd make the call for, it's a call for the last drinks at the bar. 1:45, and then we start playing the slow stuff.
Oh, here. Number 94, War with The World is a Jetto.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
The
only
good. Oh,
94. I thought it was bigger than that. Here's one. Number 95. One of the sisters just died this year. The Pointer Sisters. Yes, we can.
yeah, we can.
That I thought that would be higher up than number
Yeah,
95.
yeah, they did a version of Jump too.
Oh yeah, Jump. And number 99, Donny Osmond,
Oh boy.
The 12th of Never.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
It worked.
this is number 100, and I thought it would be higher. The Temptations
Uh oh,
and Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Rolling Stone. Yeah,
That's a good song. That's a good song. So there's top 100, 1973. That's when I now early 73, from like January to June, right? That's when you graduate. Then later on in college, September, October, November. But I do remember Kodachrome. Kodachrome was that was Paul Simon, 1973. So all this is
Donny Hathaway.
Donny Hathaway.
He
Yeah,
was big. He was really good. We were partial to the the California and Seattle bands.
yeah, yeah.
And
What was it? It wasn't in your band. You played a lot of high schools, right? I mean, did you play a lot of dances?
Mundo, and we played
Mundo.
colleges. We played colleges and clubs more than high schools.
Ah.
The earlier rendition of that group called the Intruders before the black group came out.
I remember the Intruder. Oh,
Yeah,
you
they
had
played a lot of high schools and colleges, and they played their "Got to Make Some Money" gig was the EM Club at Treasure Island.
that's
We listened
funny. I think the Intruders played Lowell. They
Oh
they
yeah,
they had
yeah,
played.
they did,
Yeah,
they did. Oh yeah, for sure.
I think I remember the Intruders.
Yeah,
I so boy, this is I got to do is like talk about your songs and go back.
yeah. Memory lane, man.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, we played. Me and my roommates loved Tower of Power and Gato Barbieri, so you
Oh
could
yeah,
hear.
Gato Barbieri. He wasn't really he couldn't dance the Gato, but it was nice to see him. It was nice to see the Gato.
Well, he did a lot of, he was bossa nova, so he did a lot of good stuff, bossa nova jazz.
Yeah,
That was really good stuff.
yeah.
And Cal Jader was still around, and he was still making
Oh, I like Cal Jader. I like
good stuff.
on the
Yeah,
vibes.
that was the more quiet um, jazz club rendition. It
Yeah,
was quiet, but really good stuff. We
And,
we gigged with him. We played the Great American Music Hall. We played
yeah,
the
he
front
was
floor.
definitely Cal Jeter was like a San Francisco guy.
He was also a Philippines guy.
He was.
Yeah, he was big in the Philippines, and he reciprocated. He was big in the Philippines and in Tokyo, and he
Ah,
reciprocated by titling songs after big cities in the Philippines, Luzon, the island, and
oh
then
yeah.
he also had a song called Cebu.
I
Yeah,
remember Cebu. You know the thing about it's too bad that we get all these copyright issues, so we can't like play the actual songs. So that'd be fun. You know,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you
They ought to lighten up on that stuff.
get dinged on all the social media sites for
Yeah,
copyright
yeah,
violation.
yeah. We
But
we could just we could what we could do is make a list and then send it out there and tell people to go ahead and use their favorites
yeah, yeah.
software to listen to some of those.
But you notice that all the songs that I mentioned, really, they were pre-disco. Disco really didn't hit till like 75, right?
Yeah, it was around. I
It was
mean,
around.
they called them a go go's while I was in high school. They called them a go go's.
Yeah, but I mean, like the
And we
really
had a we had a whiskey a go go. We had a pussycat a go go, which
yeah,
was real popular.
but Gloria Gaynor, Donna Summer, they didn't really
Yeah,
hit till
yeah, no, that didn't
75.
start happening until actually 72, 73. A lot of that stuff started happening, but it went really mainstream just before the release of Saturday Night Fever.
The Bee Gees.
Yeah.
Now you notice here on my wall, I got the tubes.
Oh,
See my T-shirt, tubes, the tubes.
oh.
And
The
I
king,
got
the
and
king, the kings, the kings of Quaaludes.
the back, Quaalude did sign the shirt. Fee Waybill.
Oh God.
It was in the back.
Yeah.
The back
Now,
here.
now
It's
people are
signed.
now people are target are thinking, what the hell are these guys talking about? Man?
It's
Who's
signed
Quaaludes?
by
What are Quaaludes?
Fee Waybill.
The
Because
Quaaludes are very
I
dangerous
swear.
barbiturates. They're right up there. They were newer than yellows and reds.
Hey,
But if you did yellows,
Quaalude.
reds, or Quaaludes, and then you drank alcohol, you could die.
Quaaludes was Bill Cosby's drug of choice.
Really? He did ludes?
That's what he gave his victims.
Oh, I can't. Well,
Allegedly.
he wasn't taking them; he was using them. Yeah.
I think he was, yeah, because when I first heard of Quaaludes, it was 1975, and everyone was taking them except me, and I'd never heard of them. And then I said, oh, I'll just take a half. I took one half of one once, and I was a jellyfish for like 6 hours. Like I couldn't walk. I mean, talk about muscle relaxant, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
I, and yet people would swear by them. I was in Texas, and people would swear by them. And I said, God, what is this thing? Everyone's saying Quaaludes. And when you were with a girl and she loved Quaaludes, that was a
It was
signal
it was a
about how
sign.
good
It was a heavy sign.
as how good your night was going to go.
Yeah,
But you shouldn't take your Quaaludes all. Just
yeah, but ludes and alcohol was a killer. I mean, you could die from that shit.
it was bad. So thank goodness I was a teetotaler back then. But no, really, check it out. Google Bill Cosby Quaaludes. That was his mo.
Yeah, I refused to disclose my own activities at the time,
Oh, hey, I missed this.
but I did play in a band, so just figure it out.
Yeah, number 26, Superstition, Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, man, big one.
That was a good one. And then and it finished above Paul Simon's Loves Me Like a Rock, Maureen McGovern's The Morning After. It finished above John Denver's Rocky Mountain High.
Wow, that one was big too.
Yeah, and it was above Steelers Wheel, Stuck in the Middle with You.
So, oh, that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry Rafferty.
Well, and I like Bob Dylan's version.
Yeah, 31 Shambhala with Three Dog. This was a Three
Two
Dog
Dog
Night.
Night.
They
Yeah,
they were big in
that was
73.
the equivalent of a rock boy band.
Yeah. Now get this. This will take you back. Number 32, The OJs and Love Train.
Okay, all right.
Love Train. Get on that Love Train.
Yeah. That's right.
73, the Love Train.
All aboard.
Yeah,
Love
and
train.
let's see. And then what else? Where there was one other song I wanted to shout out. Shout out to the Spinners, number
Oh boy.
47. Could it be I'm falling in love?
Yeah, yeah. That was a nice melody.
That was a good one. I remember dancing with one girl who was never very nice to me. No, she was nice, but she danced that, and I always see her sort of like dancing, kind of like a charity dance. Oh, I'll dance this. Could it be I'm falling in love? Don't think about. I'm not really falling in love. It's just the lyric of the song here. And then number 50. This is a classic rocker for people just learning how to play guitar. Number 50, Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water.
Okay.
I
And
mean,
there was
fire.
a
Yeah.
drug that was deep purple,
Yeah.
and people thought that Purple Haze was named after that, but it really
Uh,
wasn't. Purple Haze came out before Deep Purple. Deep Purple was named after Purple Haze.
ah, Deep Purple.
Now it was getting heavy by then because veterans who had survived Vietnam
Mhm.
were coming back with all kinds of heavy drugs, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, 73. Yeah. Oh, here. And this is why at number 62, Stevie Wonder, Higher Ground.
Yeah, yeah. You already mentioned that one.
All the Stevie Wonder songs,
Yep.
coming in. All right. Well, look,
That's enough wandering down
memory lane.
memory lane.
So I'm going back to the 50th year. I'm lock up the Quaaludes. I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
I'll show you how old we are.
Yeah.
Ours is going to be 3 more years. This is the 60th year for me.
Oh my goodness. Oh my good.
Yeah.
And half your class are Catholic priests, right?
Actually, several of the misters who were studying to be priests,
Yeah.
they made it. But there were a couple of older priests that dropped out
Oh wow. And
and got married. And there was a couple of misters that dropped out too.
ah
The guy that was outstanding English professor, and at the same time, he was a drama advisor, and he was just excellent.
yeah.
I'm trying to remember his name, but he was really cool. We used to act out Shakespeare in class,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of that stuff is really salty, right?
Mhm.
Especially the beginning scenes of street scenes of things like Romeo and Juliet and
Yeah.
Merchant of Venice and all that. They some really salty stuff, and we just acted it up.
Hey, and the,
You know?
the
Draw
guys
thy tool. Draw thy tool.
get to wear dresses
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
Shakespeare.
It said, "Oh yeah, I summoned thee by the name of what's her face, and her softly turned ankle,
Yeah. Getting
her
me
yeah
excited.
her her beautiful knee, and then some description of the knee, and domain thereabouts." Domain was spelled DESMENMENSE.
DEN.
Yeah,
Yeah.
domain.
Domain. Yeah.
Domain thereabouts, and we said, "All right, act it out, man. What is he talking about? What space is he talking about?" Yeah.
You mean under there?
No,
Under, yeah.
no, lower. Go for about 8 inches below the navel.
All right.
Okay. Anyway,
All right. So, all right. So we'll check back next week. Dan, let's hope we have a safe, peaceful weekend.
yeah.
And
Thank you, and I apologize for screwing up that quote from Act One, Scene One.
oh, that's all right. That's all right. Hey,
Yeah,
no, no,
I'm going to look it up right now.
no. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, domain
Dan,
thereabouts was just so cool. That was so
and
cool.
we're going to have our Filipino American history brunch next week. So,
Okay, we
all
are.
right, man. All
All
right.
right.
So there he goes.
All
Daniel
right.
Field Gonzalez, my friend, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University. My buddy, he's gone. There he goes. Yeah, I mean, and he put into perspective why we're having the whole conversation about Hamas and Palestine and why the colleges are full of this discussion. They're in the middle of it, but it's not complete, and so they're making a lot of wrong assumptions about where they are and what I don't know. It is possible to be anti-Hamas and pro-Palestinian. It is important to be pro-Palestinian. It's important to be pro-Jew. It's important to be anti-Hamas. It's important if you want to be pro-peace. All right, that's it for our show. It's Friday. Friday. Have yourselves a good weekend. We're going to repeat this all throughout the weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Come back. I don't think there'll be peace when we're done with the repeats. Maybe. We like to leave with a little meditation. It's always good to leave with a little metta, METTA. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Check us out on amok.com. Check us out, our past shows on YouTube at Emil Amok 1. On Facebook, fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media. On Twitter, X, formerly Twitter, at Emil Amok, EMILAMOK. Check out the PETA podcast. Hey, have yourselves a great weekend. Repeat this. Go back to the beginning. Use your finger. Go back. Until next time. Mahal Kita.